Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're embarking on a fascinating journey to decode the highly complex reality of modern supply chain management, or SCM. Now, you might be wondering, why does this matter to me? Well, it's because SCM literally dictates the availability, price, and quality of everything around you. A lot of times when people hear SCM, they immediately picture logistics, warehouses, or purchasing, but we're going to look at this entirely differently today. Instead of a dry, textbook overview of corporate functions, we're going to grasp the massive scope of SCM by tracing the journey of a single, humble product. To do this, we're pulling insights from an incredible expert lecture originally delivered at KT&G. And right off the bat, we run into a really fascinating paradox. Why on earth would a major tobacco and consumer goods company like KT&G dedicate an entire lecture to studying the supply chain of a tiny smartphone camera module? I mean, it seems completely unrelated, right? Well, that is the exact mystery we're going to unravel today. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, one product, massive supply chain. Second, flow of product, info, money. Third, the link of corporate decisions. Fourth, endlessly evolving SCM. And finally, future and limits of SCM. Section 1, one product, massive supply chain. Let's break down our anchor product to reveal the hidden network of global suppliers operating right beneath our fingertips. This completely shatters the illusion of a single product. When you look at your smartphone, you probably just see a camera lens. But take a look at this exploded view. This tiny little module is actually a highly complex system. You've got the lens gathering light, the VCM actuator adjusting the focus, the IR cut filter, the image sensor capturing the light, the image signal processor, and the PCB connecting the whole shebang. Here's the absolute crucial point. These parts aren't made by one company. There's a lens specialist, a sensor specialist, a PCB specialist. Literally dozens of highly specialized suppliers, scattered all across the globe, have to come together perfectly just so you can snap a single photo. And this brilliantly illustrates the lecturer's Trojan horse analogy, which answers our initial paradox. On the left, we have an e-cigarette. On the right, a camera module. Outwardly, they are worlds apart. You wouldn't exactly try to take a selfie with a vape. But from a supply chain perspective, they share the exact same DNA. Both are complex systems built from specialized components, like batteries and heating modules, versus lenses and sensors. They both rely on global sourcing, meticulous assembly, and incredibly strict quality standards. The lecturer uses the camera module because if you can understand its supply chain, you can instantly understand the vulnerabilities in architecture of almost any modern manufactured product. A supply chain will always halt at its weakest link. Section 2, flow of product, info, money. Having seen the physical breakdown, let's pivot from tangible parts to the abstract flows that actually keep these global networks alive and functioning. SCM is far more than just moving boxes around in a warehouse. It actually breaks down into a highly memorable concept called the 3Bs. Box represents the physical product flow. Bit represents the information flow. And buck represents the financial cash flow. If you really want to truly grasp SCM, you have to realize it's all about the simultaneous optimization of all three of these. Let's see how this builds across the network. These flows are deeply, deeply interconnected. In fact, in modern SCM, the bit, the information, actually moves first. A customer's order updates the forecast, which triggers the box, the physical manufacturing and logistics. And ultimately, that generates the buck, the revenue, the cash tied up in inventory, the working capital. A single change in a customer's information order instantly alters physical production and drastically impacts corporate cash flow. SCM is the orchestrator, ensuring these three streams never fall out of sync. Section 3, the link of corporate decisions. Now we'll shift our focus to see how this orchestration happens on a daily basis. If you think a supply chain is just a static spreadsheet, think again. It's a living, breathing entity with a relentless weekly heartbeat. Typically, it goes a little something like this. Friday, sales inputs the customer forecast. Monday, SCM reviews global capacity to ask, can we actually build this? Tuesday, the master plan is confirmed with the suppliers. Wednesday, you manage the inevitable exceptions and crises. And Thursday, the Global Operations Center holds a commit meeting to align every single department. The real secret of SCM is the absolute chaos that happens on Wednesday. The lecturer shares a really profound insight from the field here. An SCM manager's day doesn't start as planned. It starts when the plan breaks. A supplier's machine breaks down, a massive cargo ship gets stuck in a canal, demand suddenly spikes out of nowhere. The true value of SCM isn't in drafting a perfect plan on Tuesday. It's in how skillfully they orchestrate the recovery on Wednesday to find a new equilibrium that works for sales, production, and finance. And this orchestration doesn't just suddenly start during mass production. SCM gets involved long before a factory line is ever turned on. They're in the room during early planning to assess market demand. They're there during engineering to ensure suppliers can actually build the new designs, through the vital pre-mass production phase all the way to final mass production. Notice that critical period highlighted in red on this product lifecycle. That is the ramp-up phase. This is where SCM truly shines. Ramp-up isn't just about making more products, it's about meticulously stress testing the entire supply network. Can the suppliers hit the quality standards at an enormous scale? Is the logistics network ready for this? If a company fails to align supplier capacity with aggressive customer demand during ramp-up, the product is going to fail in the market, no matter how amazing the engineering is. Section 4, Endlessly Evolving SCM. The world isn't static, which brings us to why supply chains must endlessly adapt just to survive. Over the past few decades, the pressures on supply chains have absolutely skyrocketed. We're talking about severe geopolitical risks, incredibly diverse and rapidly changing customer demands, and massive digital technology advancements. Competition is no longer just my standalone product versus your standalone product. It is literally my entire global supply chain versus your entire global supply chain. SCM hasn't changed just because it wanted to. It evolved out of pure survival instinct. Historically, companies just focused on managing their own internal supply and production. But as products got way more complex and components had to be outsourced globally, just like our camera module, the whole paradigm shifted. Today, SCM is way less about controlling internal factories and almost entirely about dynamically reacting to unpredictable global demand and orchestrating external core competencies. Section 5, Future and Limits of SCM. This brings us to our final section, where we peer into the technological horizon while confronting the harsh, unpredictable realities of global business. We're hearing tons of buzzwords right now: digital transformation, AI, generative AI. The source makes a really vital clarification here. These upcoming digital and AI transformations are not designed to replace humans in the supply chain. Instead, their true purpose is to dramatically accelerate and improve complex corporate decision-making. They process the bit, that information flow we talked about, way faster so that human managers can optimize the box and the buck. But all this tech raises a pivotal question, one that really challenges our assumptions about modern business control. If we're getting all this incredible AI, and our master plans are perfectly data-driven, why do supply chains still fail so spectacularly? Well, the answer is that supply chains rarely fail because of bad internal math. They fail because of massive, unpredictable environmental changes. Take the sudden outbreak of a geopolitical conflict, like the Middle East war mentioned here. No AI algorithm, no matter how advanced it is, can perfectly predict sudden geopolitical conflicts, natural disasters, or global pandemics. Therefore, the true future of SCM doesn't rely entirely on perfect forecasting. It relies heavily on resilience, agility, and risk management, the ability to pivot the exact moment the world changes. Bringing this explainer full circle, I want to leave you with a profound closing thought from the lecturer. If you understand the product, you see the supply chain. If you understand the supply chain, you see the company. We started this off by looking at a tiny little camera module, but by understanding the global network required to build it, we successfully decoded the massive corporate strategies, financial flows, and global risks that define modern industry. Which leads us to a final provocative thought. As we look to the horizon, I want you to ask yourself, what will truly dictate the winners and losers of tomorrow's global economy? Will it be who has the best standalone product, who has the most resilient supply chain, or who wields the best AI? The answer is going to define the next decade of business. Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you in the next one.